Algebra for Sports Fans, Part 5, Absolute Values. This is Ken Boyd, owner of St. Louis Test Preparation. You'll see our email listed here, and our phone number, our website, and our YouTube channel will be at the end of the presentation. Before we talk about absolute value, we have to talk about opposites first. Opposites are defined as 2 points that are the distance from the same distance from the origin, but on opposite sides of the origin. So 2 and minus 2 are opposites. Negative 2 can also be stated as the opposite of 2. So starting at the center of the origin, moving at the same speed in 2 different directions, anywhere you stop, you're going to have numbers that are opposites. Now we can go on to absolute values definition. The absolute value of a real number is the distance between the origin and the point representing the real number. You'll remember on our prior presentation, algebra deals almost exclusively with real numbers. So my hint here is picture how far the number is from the origin. And now for some symbols that we use in math. The symbol A with the brackets around it represents the absolute value of A. So 3 rules at the bottom here. If A is a positive number, absolute value of A symbol equals A, or absolute value of 3 is 3. So if it's a positive number, it stays the same. If A is 0, its absolute value is 0. The tricky one is the last one. If A is a negative number, then the absolute value of A is negative A, which means we have 2 negatives. Negative times negative, you'll learn later, is a positive. So at the bottom right corner where you see the absolute value of negative 3, that's actually minus negative 3. Negative times a negative is a positive. We end up with a positive 3 as our absolute value. Here's my example for absolute value, and I use Mount Everest, which I'm particularly interested in. At 29,000 feet, Mount Everest is the highest point on Earth. Climbers reach the summit most often by climbing the southeastern ridge. During the trip, climbers climb and descend using 5 camps. And the risk if you're a climber is extreme weather conditions, but even more important, a lack of oxygen. As a result, they must climb to the summit and descend as fast as possible to prevent themselves from being injured or killed. So what I've listed at the bottom is the camps along the way, the 5 camps including, we'll call a camp at the summit, and the altitude of those camps. So let's make an assumption. Bob starts at base camp and decides to climb to camp 3. Due to bad weather, though, Bob could not attempt to reach the summit and he has to return to base camp. So he basically went to camp 3 and then returned to base camp, round trip. Joe, on the other hand, starts at camp 3, reaches the summit, and goes all the way back down to camp 2. And the question is, who climbed the most feet in absolute terms? In other words, which climber went the furthest distance, whether going up or down? So based on the prior slide, I've got the totals here. And we see that Bob, even though he didn't reach the summit, actually in total feet went a further distance. And the important thing here is it doesn't matter whether you're going up or down. We're counting the distance traveled in absolute terms. It's counting the distance traveled as all positives. And I hope that the prior slide helps you understand absolute value. I've put the rules back up here again. Let me try it a different way. If both negative 3 and 3 are 3, quote, units from the origin, we can think of them as being equally far apart if we start at the origin and move in either direction. For absolute value, we ignore whether the distance is positive or negative. The absolute value of negative 3 and 3, you can see at the top, the answer is 3 in both cases. In the same way, we added total feet climbed on the prior slide, and we ignored whether the climber was going up or down. So I hope you can use the Mount Everest example to remember how absolute value works. Below, I put the source for this video. It's a textbook that's used pretty widely throughout the country for algebra. That's the end of Part 5. You can find Part 6 on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel, Ken Boyd STL. For live tutoring and live chat sessions, there's our website, our email address, and our phone number. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.